But in fact, my name does not mean poet, mother. It means mountain dweller and loyal one. Grant money from the government and whatnot.
I know you didn't go to public school, but was it ever actually against any sort of rule to leave school in elementary school?
Is that teachers don't have as much of a sway as parents do. Welcome to the Young Patriots podcast. I'm your host, Devin Romero, along with our co-host here, Aiden MacArthur.
Morning.
The one and only.
Voice cracked already. This is
Already.
going to be a good episode.
Already. Good thing it's almost the end of the day, so, can't happen too much more. And then we've got Jacob. I'm forgetting your last name. What was
Jacob
it?
Hanks.
Hanks. I was thinking Hurst, but that was Carson.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Well-
double episode with both my drummers.
Yeah, that's true. Carson and Jacob are both in Aiden's band. Do you want to give a plug for that real quick?
It's not that important.
It is.
Rushmore_band4 on Instagram. We're not going anywhere, just a cover band. So if you want to follow it, go for it. Follow us,
rock.
the podcast first.
rock.
No, literally, they're a rock band.
Straight up.
So, all right, Jacob. So go ahead and introduce yourself and why you're on the podcast today.
Yeah, great. So yes, I'm Jacob Hanks, and I'm from Levan, Utah. It's just a small town, in like central Utah, like 800 people. So really rural.
Wow, that's really small.
Yeah. I actually moved there from Seattle though when I was pretty little. But definitely Levan's a better place than Seattle. So.
I wonder why you say that.
I think almost any place is better than Seattle.
You think so?
I think hell is almost better than
I
Seattle.
don't know. I vote California is up there.
You know, there's
Better than
there's-
Seattle?
No,
I
I'm
was gonna
saying.
say.
But the Seahawks
It's
were
up
the
there.
Super Bowl champions.
Don't talk about the Super Bowl.
Anyways,
This is a toxic Saints fan.
well, okay. I reached out to come onto this podcast today through Aiden, who I know from the band. Just because, well, I've listened to a few episodes and I really like your guys' platform, and then of like giving people chances to speak and like voice their opinion. And then also my mother, her name is Linda Hanks. She is running for office right now in the state of Utah.
What school district is it?
It is, well, she's served on Juep School District. She's been on there for over a decade and served as the president.
Okay.
And then now she's running for the Utah State School Board.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so that school board has 15 seats on it throughout the state of Utah. And our jurisdiction is the largest in land-wise. It covers 10 counties
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
from central down to southern Utah.
That's crazy, dude. So what's your mom's main message? What sets her apart from everyone else?
Yeah, so one thing I will say about my mom is she is very passionate. And it's really just, as someone who knows her really well, it's really refreshing for me to see someone in public service because of something that they're genuinely passionate about. And I just think that we need more people in there that are like that. So especially where we see a lot of, in a lot of politics on the state level, especially on the federal level, but on the state level, the voice of people living in rural communities like us kind of gets pushed away. I think that someone like my mom, who's passionate about what she does and has experience representing rural areas, is a perfect person for the Utah State School Board.
Is there a lot of controversy with the school board elections, or is it, pretty cut and dry? I don't know how political it gets, basically, is kind of what I'm asking.
As you could imagine, in a place more rural, Utah's a red state,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother is running as a Republican. So as you could imagine, there's not a super big fight in these elections between like Democrats and Republicans, except once you get into Salt Lake Valley, places like that. But the real drama would be right now in the election, leading up to the primaries, going through the caucus system and all that. Yeah, that's where the kind of drama is. After the primaries, it's way more chill.
Because you've already got people picked. Is it like a? I mean, with there being multiple positions open, I don't know how that works. But is there people where, okay, the right picks their set of people and the left picks their set of people? Is that kind of how that works, or is it not?
Yeah, so that's how it works. Basically, just whoever gets through to the primaries, the state will have their vote.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that for a school board. I know about it for like the
Mhm.
presidential election,
Yeah.
but
So it's the same thing as a presidential election. It has caucus
Interesting.
meetings and what's that, state convention
Hmm.
to vote, and the delegates will vote. But yeah, and then what's also a big factor in this state school board election in Utah
Mm-hmm.
is that they can gather signatures to like kind of get past that caucus system. They can either go through the caucus system and get their votes from the delegates, or get signatures. For our district, it's 2,000 signatures from registered Republicans, and yeah, my mom is choosing to do both actually, just to talk to more people.
Interesting.
So,
That's cool. So, have there been any polls that have been done? Like, is it like pretty, well known who's in the lead right now? Is it just kind of a we'll find out when we get there?
there hasn't been any polls yet. It's still pretty early on in the election.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the primaries haven't happened yet, so
Okay.
When do the primaries happen?
those primaries are in May, I do believe.
Okay.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, anyone that's watching this from Utah, go ahead and check her out. So Linda Hanks.
Yep, Linda Hanks. You could actually follow her campaign on Instagram, or there's a website link that's www.linda4stateschoolboard.com, and that 4 is the number 4.
The number 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll throw in a plug for that.
Sweet.
So, what's been the feedback as one of her kids? Do you meet people that know about her? They ask you questions, or they're like, "Oh, are you related to?" Like, how does that interaction go? What feedback do you hear from random people?
Most of the feedback that I've heard is from our local community down in like Nephi, Utah. She's been in her position on the Jew Up School District for over 10 years, as I said, and most of the people that I talk to are really appreciative because they can see how much she sacrifices. It's just a public service position. And she's just a career educator. She's passionate about what she does. So I think that really the community sees that too. I've helped in gathering signatures for my mom a few weekends as I've been able to go down to Utah, and from just people I talk to, just literally going door to door. So not very many people knew her outside of our local community, but they really would trust her too based on her career.
So the other thought that comes to my mind is, I mean, I see a lot of issues in education in our country. I think that you're going to be talking about a little bit more of corruption later on in this episode, but I think there's a lot of problems with the way kids are taught. I think it's disgraceful that, again, I know it's different from school district to school district. For those of you that don't know, I'm homeschooled, so I never went through a public grade. But my parents have been.
That explains a lot.
My parents have been through public school back in the 80s, and then I've talked to people that have since been through school and whatnot, friends and family and all that. And I think the problems that I have with it are on the basis of we've eliminated our physical fitness program that we used to have during the the Kennedy administration. Every kid was supposed to do a certain number of push-ups, certain number of I think it's like curls and pull-ups and all these different things. They had to be able to run a certain lap time for a mile. Like there was just these standards, and you had to reach those standards to, I don't know if it was to graduate or if it was just to prove that you excelled in a physical athleticism.
But that was the requirement.
Yeah. They held a physical code, which I think is really important. I think it's actually really essential for our health.
Big time.
And I think it's part of the reason that our country's so sick. It's just that we're eating foods that are terrible for us, which is happening in school. We're not engaged in the same physical exertion and activities that we need to be, and so we're getting lethargic and we're gaining weight, and all these things are happening. And then on top of that, we've had issues with, in younger grades, recess being eliminated and seeing that it has a negative impact on their learning ability and social interactions.
That should be obvious, especially for elementary school. I mean, playtime for kids is absolutely crucial for development.
It's how you learn to be an adult.
Seriously.
That's the reason why when kids are playing, they play with trucks and they play with dolls and they play with balls and sticks and all these other different toys, is because they're learning reality, they're learning the physical world, they're learning their role in society. That's a lot of like dolls and trucks and construction toys. Like there's all these different things that they're learning, and a lot of those are role based. They're figuring out who they are. They're figuring out what they want and how to take care of a kid, how to operate a vehicle, how to be a part of society. Whatever the case is, like it's not pointless. It is constructive and it is productive.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm getting at with that question is, there's all these problems with education. Has your mom made any of those issues, or issues I didn't bring up, an element of her campaign?
Yeah, so a big piece of her campaign is that she, obviously, like I said earlier, she fights for rural communities and rural values. And I take that to heart because those values are traditional.
Yeah.
So she is conservative. She wants to conserve those traditional values that have made our country great, that were successful back then. A concern that she sees, and I'm sure you guys have seen a lot, is that a lot of times nowadays in public education, there's opinions and ideas pushed on kids that shouldn't be pushed on kids, or things taken away because who knows why. Like, why would recess be taken away? I personally don't see any reason why they should take something that away. But basically, my mom, she's there to keep traditional values. Something that's important too to her is the idea that public education is there to improve the lives of kids, right? But that doesn't mean that public education is the only thing that we'll be teaching your kids. So I actually was just talking to her just earlier, and she said something that really stuck out to me. If I can pull it up here.
Yeah. I think another issue that I've noticed is the concepts of, schools get paid per day, per child, and it's only for the active year. That's the only reason why they want you to go to school administratively, is if you don't attend school, they don't get paid. So they need you to go to school in order to get that grant money from the government and whatnot.
I know you didn't go to public school, but was it ever actually against any sort of rule to leave school in elementary school? Or is it?
I'm not the person
is
to
it,
ask all that.
Maybe just child protection laws.
Probably child protection, yeah. But there's
go.
like rumors going around like, oh, it's illegal. Like your parents will get the cops calling and stuff. I'm like, the freak.
I can't imagine that.
Sounds like feared so they can keep their money or something.
They need the money from attendance.
That's true.
But
I mean, it's funded based on student enrollment.
Yeah.
How much do they get per kid?
I don't know. It probably depends on the state.
Depends on the state.
But the thing is, there's been situations where kids are left behind because, for instance, this happened during COVID. We'll just automatically shove everyone into the next grade. Like those kids, the next time they go to school, they were not prepared for the content that they were learning in class. So what I'm getting at is there's been this forced, well, because you already ran through your year, we don't get credit if we make you rerun grade 9. We don't get credit if you want to rerun 6th grade. So if we hold you back and you do 6th grade all over again, we're doing it out of pocket. You're not bringing us any revenue. So it encourages school districts to just say, move along. But on top of that, because of the No Child Left Behind policy, which obviously is not effectively administering its claim that is in the title, it holds back students that are excelling. I think that there should be separate tracks of classes that are on a slower pace that meet that child's needs, classes that are in a medium pace and a more advanced pace. I think you need to have a tiered system. I've heard different ideas of what you can do there. If it needs to be AI enhanced learning, then let it be that way, because it needs to be customized to the kids' needs.
It could be. And I think the most important thing you said there is that education and learning has to be customized to the kids' needs. Right?
Yeah. Does your mom have any opinions on those things?
Yeah, so kind of what I was bringing up earlier, you have to look at the role that parents have in their kids' education. Because first of all, like, there's a lot of people that have a lot to say about the public education system, right? And it's not perfect. Our government's not perfect. It's not. But what defines success of a public education, like school district, I think, is if that kid goes through K through 12 and they are prepared to go on to the next stage in life.
Yeah.
Whether it's the army, college, mission, we're at BYUI, right?
Career.
Yeah, career, if you want to go right in. I think that's the point of K through 12. But what's important is the role that parents have in their children's education. It isn't take your kid to school and drop them off and just...
Which I think for a lot of people, that's what it is.
Yeah, because they get so invested in their own lives.
They're busy working their 2 jobs just to afford to feed their family.
So it becomes a daycare, essentially.
Yeah.
It becomes like school should not be a daycare, but some parents will just drop their kids off at school. Daycare, I'm paying taxes for them to learn up my child.
Yeah.
And then they have room to complain then when their child's education isn't what they think it should be.
So if that's the case, then I think we should shorten the school day. And I think it should be a 4-hour school day or a 5-hour school day, and you go home after lunch.
That is an interesting point, because what my mom also believes is that parents play a huge role in the kids' education.
But the parents aren't home. If both mom and dad, which in a lot of homes that's the case, are working, they're not home by those hours.
Exactly, which is a problem. But the way to solve like any area of education that's lacking, I think, is for the parents to be more involved. So the most critical educator that a student has is their parents. The most that any kid learns and their brain develops is from ages 1 to 5, when they're not even in school yet. So how much stuff are they going to learn there? Yeah. And then at school, they will learn information and stuff that's important to learn. Like, what did we learn? Math, history, and stuff like that. Yeah. What's getting dangerous today is that there's some educators who would start to teach their students ideals, which should not be taught in the school, but should be taught at home. Yeah,
they want it to be the moral epicenter of a society. And I've heard students be referred to as the community's children. That's been a phrase that I've heard thrown around.
That's a crazy term.
Well, it's communist.
Yeah.
That's the ideal of communism, is that you completely disintegrate the family unit. You have to do that in order to reach full communism. And it didn't even work in Soviet Russia.
So
it's never worked before.
Yeah, well, communism just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But it's because they want control. They want power, right? And so anyone that tries to take away the traditional value of teaching ideals to your kids in your home, like, that's just not a traditional... it's not moral. I think.
I agree. Yeah.
It's not moral. It's not logical. It's not healthy.
Right.
It's the concept of experts know more than your parents do.
Mm-hmm.
Trust the experts, which, gotta tell you, the experts have been sucking a lot recently. Just gotta say that, okay? You name the industry, I'll find you experts that are really sucky, okay? Now, there's experts out there that are actually worth their salt.
Like Dr. Fauci. Idiot.
Rip. But
He thought we forgot about him.
oh, I think he thinks that we, like, I don't know. I think he thinks a lot of people worship him still.
Probably.
after
but I think
after
most-
COVID and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think he has a superiority complex. But the point is that ultimately you are always going to go awry when you replace parents,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't
Very
mean
true.
parents are great. You know, there's going to be sucky parents out there. I get it, but even in those situations, the children learn things from their parents. Okay, they learn how to be a human being. They learn how to resolve conflict. When your parents are fighting,
Mhm.
it's an invitation for the child to understand, do I imitate this or do I reject this?
Right.
Can I assist them? What are my options? They start learning things because guess what? It's not just their parents that are imperfect. Their government agencies are imperfect. Their local communities are imperfect. Companies are imperfect. Like, we're all people. We're all imperfect.
Mm.
You're getting preparation for what the real
What life
world
is going to be
yeah,
like.
and that's no excuse for abuse. Absolutely not. I'm just saying that we learn no matter what. And actually, they did a poll recently. I'm actually blown away by this because I've always held the belief that educators that are extreme, that are trying to enforce gender ideology, and woke agendas, as I put it, are a huge influence in students. I've seen it affect students. That being said, what comes back consistently is that teachers don't have as much of a sway as parents do. The number one determiner about what you believe as a person is what your parents believe. That's not a guarantee. There's people that grew up in conservative households that become liberal. You
But-
know?
As you're growing up, I just feel like you're so impressionable.
For sure.
So yeah, I remember last semester actually, it's just something interesting my political science professor said. Shout out brother Mema. I don't know if you guys know him, but he basically said like so many people in college will switch what side of the political spectrum they're on because they start to learn more. And before that, they were kind of there under the wing of their parents, like that. And I do believe that's true. That's why ideals like that, like woke agenda, and that it just doesn't belong in our public school system.
It's very interesting to try to tell the difference between, the left believes in these policies, talking about critical race theory, which is so damaging, talking about different gender ideologies and identities and all those things. And they believe that's right. And then we believe in God. We believe God should be talked about in school. We believe, and that's not Christian nationalists to say that. It's not that it's a state-sponsored school, a state-sponsored church, I mean. That's where it's an issue. That's where the Constitution says, no, you can't do that. No state-sponsored religions. And no religious control of the government. But that does not mean that we shouldn't be talking about Christ in school. The fact that you can get in trouble for having a Bible or a Book of Mormon in school is insane to me. Okay?
You can get in trouble for that.
Yes.
Just having it?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know how many districts have a problem with that, but I know that there are plenty of students that have had
Yeah.
issues with that.
Would you say though that well, like obviously if someone could get in trouble for having that, they could get in trouble for having a Quran.
Quran. They don't. They don't. There are school districts, and I forget where it was. I think it's in California. There's a school that literally dedicated one of its rooms as a Muslim prayer room because they had Muslim students that were leaving class to go do their prayers throughout the day. So they said, well, we'll use this as a recreational room or a cultural room or something like that. But it was just solely for these Muslim students to pray in. Okay. Now,
which I'm not entirely against, but make it that way for everybody.
Equal. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So why is it that we can't? So, for instance, students can actually call for prayer. So let's say you're at gym practice and you ask, like, hey, can we say a prayer before? You might get rejected, but you can actually initiate a prayer before your practice, or if you're a football team, before your game. Like, you can do that. It never happens, but you can do that. Teachers are not allowed to, which I also think is. They're not sponsoring Christianity. I don't know. Anyway, it's interesting to see that.
Me, I guess I understand. I mean, I'm a Christian, and I support Christianity in our schools because of my beliefs there. But it also makes sense to me, like, if just think of it from like a Muslim's perspective, or someone who's not religious.
Yeah.
If they said, "Oh well, if we can't have this in school," or say someone from the LGBTQ community said, "Oh, we can't have our ideas and beliefs in school, like a pride flag," then you can't have a Bible.
But that's what I'm saying is, I'm not trying to tell someone else, oh, you can't have a Quran in school. I actually want people to read the Quran.
But would you let them have a LGBTQ flag in the school?
I mean, I wouldn't stop a student from doing that. It's different when it's the school promoting these different ideas.
If it's administration,
right? Different. I don't have a problem with prayer. Listen, if you don't want to say a prayer, walk out of the room, okay? Or if you want to say a prayer in your Muslim faith too. So there's a Christian prayer that's said, and then there's a Muslim prayer that's said, and the atheists are out in the hallway waiting. I'm fine with that. Like, I don't have any qualms with that. What I do have problems with is it is one-sided, but it's not in our favor. It's in the favor of, you can't have God in school. You can't have these other, Christian beliefs, but we can have Muslim beliefs. I have a cousin who, for about a month, they were doing a Muslim awareness program. They were supposed to take on a Muslim name. They were supposed to go to a mosque, eat Muslim food, and
they were forced to by their school.
It was part of their program.
The freak.
And there wasn't the same thing for any of the other religions. That's insane. So this is in Temecula, California. This was like 6 to 8 years ago.
Yeah,
it would have been further than that.
That's very one-sided.
Exactly.
Put on by the administration,
right?
Which the administration, the government doesn't have any place pushing any belief or ideal on something.
That's what I'm getting at.
That sounds an awful like cultural appropriation, by the way.
It's insane. Whatever. But that's the thing that I'm getting at is, if you're going to have these other ideologies in school, you better talk about all of them. And you better talk about them like you're in favor of them. You don't have to be like, this is the greatest thing. I'm saying, like, don't diss it. When you read through Christianity and these history books and stuff like that, and they talk about, these world religions, Christianity is usually a very overlooked portion. It's one of the most significant religions, historically speaking. I mean, it's literally how we base our year system. Like, think about that. Our calendar is based on the year Christ was born. Okay? That's pretty impactful if you ask me. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson's comment on, I will respect the AD BC system, because the guys that made the Gregorian calendar, the calendar we use, did an amazing job. Like, very low error rate. Like, that's the reason we have leap years and all that stuff. That accounts for the error. Very low error issues on their calendar. One of the most accurate calendars ever made. So he respects that by saying AD, as a scientist, AD and BC. Everyone else is doing Common Era, before Common Era. I'm like, get out of here. It's based on Christ. Okay?
Yeah.
Admit it. So that's all I'm saying is, let's have equal play. The Christian side has been pushed out for so long, and we're not seeing that equal play.
And honestly, I think it's being pushed out by like this woke agenda.
It is.
It's
because they're antithetical.
Yeah, but and I just hate how like that woke agenda, they'll use this and be like, oh well, Christianity has been in schools for so long, now let's
where?
Yeah, they say like, example, in the Pledge of Allegiance we say one nation under God, and
which they got rid of a lot of districts.
A lot of districts did. Not in Utah, thank goodness.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. But
they did in Idaho.
Did they?
Yeah, in my hometown actually, which is not as much anymore, but it used to be super crazy conservative. I noticed one day, I was like, I haven't said the Pledge of Allegiance in like 3 years.
Yeah.
So and my history teacher in high school, she's the only one that had us do it.
So I know someone from Rigby, Idaho, which is hop, skip, and a jump away from here. It's 15 minutes.
Stone's throw.
Yep. So he's from Rigby, and they lived there for quite a while. And there were people on the school board in Rigby that were like, the students get enough God at church. They don't need to have God in school. Have you talked to your bishop lady about that concept?
I've had enough water today. I don't need any more. I already ate once. Like, I'm good for the rest of the week.
So the thing is, I
Stupidest
don't want state advocated church in the school system. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm talking about is prayer is good for our society. It is healing. There is a spiritual side of humanity. I think most people can agree with that. If you ask people, what do you believe in? They're like, well, I'm spiritual. You know, like most people believe there is something besides this physical realm. Okay, if you ask them. Because 2/3 of the world are basically Christian or Muslim. And then there's a bunch of people that are outside of that category that there's, you know, a bunch of them that are spiritual. Okay. So they believe in something more than the physical realm. So let's talk about it. It's pivotal. It's really important for society. I'm not telling you have to have this church sponsored. You have to have the Muslim faith sponsored. You have to have Latter-day Saints sponsored. Not what I'm saying. Okay? That's the separation of church and state, folks. Not that the moment you walk through a government facility, you can't talk about God. That's not what it meant. Okay? Not what it meant. And separation of church and state isn't in our Constitution, by the way. It's a letter that Jefferson wrote.
Right.
So,
I think, like, if it were to just be simplified, I think that, like, going back to a bit of what we were talking about earlier, ideals and everything about that, like, should be taught in the family. As parents, you have complete freedom to teach your kids whatever you want, correct?
Yeah.
Whether that's on the left side or the right side of the political spectrum, whether it's Christianity, Judaism,
Islam.
Sorry. Yeah. But like, you should be able to teach whatever you want. I think that in schools, the job of the administration and the teachers and just public education is to teach their students. No ideals. So to me, while I think Christianity is great, and I do agree prayer benefits people, it's healing, it's great. It has, in the same sense that I don't believe an LGBTQ flag belongs in the school put up by a teacher, prayer also doesn't belong put out by a teacher.
Yeah, put up by a teacher, I can agree with that.
If it's a student, it's completely fine. I think what you were talking about earlier, a student not being allowed to hold the Bible, his own personal copy of the Bible in the school, that is awful.
Yep.
Any student should be able to hold his own Quran, his own Bible, Book of Mormon.
As long as you're not hurting other people, and I agree with teachers, I get it. There does need to be a level of responsibility. I still think they should be able to call for prayer. Like, that's just kind of baffling to me. Yeah. But I agree. I think the teacher needs to be responsible and careful. I'm not saying that they should speak equally of all religions. When you're talking about it in a history class or a religion class, you should be able to be like, listen, I'm not trying to convince you to become Christian. Like, my role as a teacher is not to do that. I'm educating you on what is a Christian, what is Islam, what is atheism. So we can talk about it practically and pragmatically, not advocately.
Right. It's their job to let you know and to teach you so you know the
information. Right. And we don't see that. There's a lack on the full spectrum, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, it's the whole reason they banned creationism from, I don't agree with creationism. It's the belief that God created the earth in exactly 6 days. I think it's symbolic. I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong, but that's my belief, is that I don't believe in the hardline creationism view, but it's a viewpoint of how the world came to be. Like, it's not in the science book. I get that, but I mean, the history book, it's kind of a significant belief. A significant amount of people believe in creationism. But interesting. It's interesting how the state will pick and choose what it does and doesn't sponsor. And then it's like, well, this isn't religious. It's like, have you looked at some of these issues with transgenderism and LGBTQ rights? Like a lot of stuff, abortion, it becomes a religious fervor. It does. Like regardless of whether you acknowledge it as such, I think a lot of these things, I think anything can become a religion. I think your money can become a religion. I think shopping for nice boats and ATVs, like so anything can become a false god. So that's something that they're not accounting for. But if you look at it like that, anything and everything becomes a religion. And I think that you need to make it, as a Christian, I believe that you need to make it Christ. Otherwise, it's a false god.
That's true.
But I'm not going to force that on anyone. I'm not going to force that on people.
I mean, ultimately, I don't know how to put it, answer to something. We base our values off of something.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
we all believe we're right. Otherwise, we wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. The thing is, I am right all the time. So, but I hear what you're saying. That's a joke.
Aiden has yet to be married. He will definitely change that stance once he is married.
That's what I keep hearing. You know what? I'm kind of enjoying life
so
for a moment.
Fun moment. This is a total tangent, but we're pretty much done with this episode because we had to cut it short for Jacob and Aiden.
We have a concert.
Yeah.
So they're a bit in a hurry.
Wish us luck. You're gonna see this like 2 months after it's done.
Fun little thing. When my wife and I were dating, I told her, just so you know, if you're gonna marry me, you're gonna have to be okay with the fact that I will not play the game of like, yes, dear, and say you're right even when you're not. But when you are right, I will call balls and strikes.
Balls. Sorry, you stumbled and then all of our brains went to, that's my bad. I like that though. I want to have the same
Do you want to know how many times I've had to tell her that she was right and that I wasn't?
How many?
I'm probably at a 25-ish% win ratio.
That's not
marry
bad.
A woman smarter than yourself.
That's
You'll
not
do
bad.
well in life.
I have an ex long ago where the win ratio was like 100% her and I hated myself. So, I'm happy for it.
Find a happy balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I win sometimes. Maybe she's letting me win. I don't know. But
Probably.
yeah,
If you ask her, what would the ratio be?
I think it would be about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty transparent about that. We literally had an argument about like what my name meant because my mom always said like Devin, it means poet. It's only the version that's spelled with an I.
It's a mix of devil and demon. So
I've had people tell me that before. You're not the first one.
dang it!
But in fact, my name does not mean poet, mother. It means mountain dweller and loyal one.
Mountain dweller.
Apparently there were people that
It's not
lived
crazy far off from you, I don't think. Mountain dweller and loyal.
Yeah, I'd say it's fairly accurate. But there were people that lived, I don't know if it has to do with Devonshire, but it's a location in Europe that they lived, and it was a mountainous region, and they were known as like Devon people or like the Devon community or something like that. But that's what the word's derived from.
Devon community.
Something you didn't know that you didn't need to know that you now know.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you spend our time
Carson's
with
name
me.
is a meme. Can I tell the cameras that?
Go for it.
All right.
We're having fun now. It's
My
been
brother's
good.
name is also Devin, spelled the same way.
Is it really?
Yeah, he was named after the town in England.
That's sick.
What were you named after?
I'm a dad joke.
So Carson's name, Carson, he was born in the car on the side of the road, right?
Yeah, in Provo.
And his dad,
That's
I guess
wild.
like a split second later, was like, "Oh, dude,
Carson!
Carson!"
The worst thing, I don't even know if it's true. Like,
Oh!
I asked everybody, like, I asked my mom, and she's like, did you ask your father? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you two are divorced. You should be able to tell me. And she's like,
I didn't know your parents were
ask your
divorced.
father. And I'm like, Dad, is this true? And he's like, did you ask your mother? And I'm
Oh
like,
my
"Who's gonna
gosh.
Tell me. I asked my grandparents. They're like, what did your parents tell you?
You're like, guys, I didn't sign up for it. The moment I became 18, you shouldn't have done this to me. You shouldn't go, did you ask your mom? Did you ask your dad?
That's like worse than your parents telling you that you're adopted.
I know.
Yeah,
We need to like,
crazy.
we need to help Lincoln add subtitles for all of this. This is going to be deleted to me.
Sorry, Lincoln. I'll help you out with editing.
Various interjections talking about Carson.
This is gonna suck, Fred.
We've got the whole crew
It's a
involved on
good
this
thing.
one.
It's a good thing we're at 40 minutes. So,
Well, there you go.
Okay, well, that's it for today's
Good
show.
talk, though.
Hopefully you had fun.
and I hope your mom wins too.
Yeah.
Shout out,
Thank you.
shout
Yeah,
out
best of luck.
Lindsay.
Linda.
My bad. I'm sorry.
You're
Linda
good.
Hanks.
Linda Hanks.
Linda
And,
Hanks.
Okay, so if anyone is listening and you are from central Utah, in southern Utah County, Juab County, Millard, Beaver, Iron, San Pete, Sevier, Carbon, Embry, or Grand, you'll see my mom's name on the primaries and for election day, hopefully for election day in November. And if you are a registered Republican, you could get in contact with me and give us a signature to help her get there to the primaries. So thank you.
Shout out Linda Hanks.
This was just a taste of what's to come in our discussions about fixing the Department of Education and state education as well. So let's keep working on that. I think it's a really big initiative. I think there's a lot to do. I think there's a lot wrong. There's plenty that's going well too, but I think that there's a lot of improvement for our education system. So let's be the change. Share your comments. What's wrong with the school system? What do you hate about it? Maybe it's personal experience. And share what your solution is to it. Have a good night, folks.